Welcome to PHT in the Morning with your host, Pastor David Miller from the Pentecostal Holiness Tabernacle in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Good morning and welcome to PHT in the Morning with Pastor David Miller. And we're just excited about what we're going to talk to you about today. And I think what we're going to be talking to you about today, we'll probably do in two parts. I'll probably do the first part today. I'm going to be talking about the word fear. And if you spell out the word fear, F-E-A-R, the first one, we can look at it like this. Fear, meaning forget everything and run. And that's how a lot of people views that word fear. Just forget everything and run. Let's get out of here because I'm afraid. And there's another way you can look at the word fear. And that same four letters, F-E-A-R, that spells fear, we can look at it as face everything and rise. So that's a great choice we have to make. When fear comes, are we going to face everything and rise? Or are we going to forget everything and run? So first of all, this morning I want to talk to you about, on this episode, the one, are we going to forget everything and run? Are we going to run in the face of trouble or worry or setback, hardships, or anything that comes against us? Are we going to just forget it all and run as fast and as far away as we can get? That is an option that a lot of people have taken. But it don't have to happen to the child of God. I want to talk to you about fear. So first of all, I want to mention the word fear is mentioned 350 times in the Bible. And the word be not afraid or fear not or some variation of that is mentioned in those 350 times. So the Bible's telling us don't be afraid, be not afraid, and fear not over 350 times. Now, one reason we don't want to have fear is because the Bible tells us the fear of man bringeth a snare, and whoso putteth his trust in the Lord shall be saved. So if you're going to allow situations that come your way in life, or obstacles or problems, or maybe even a trial that you're facing, anything that would bring fear to you, that you fail to put your trust God in, then that fear is going to bring a snare, a way for you to falter, to fall, to fail, or something of that nature. So you can take that fear and put your trust in the Lord, the Bible said, and be saved. Or you can allow that fear to cause you to be trapped or to fall in a snare of some sort. Now, we're going to be talking to you a little more, but I want to just give you a couple good things to think about. I want you to know that fear can absolutely immobilize your spiritual life. And it can be or result in depression or anxiety or anything of that nature. So we must be careful when we face fearful times in our life. Don't let it stop you, immobilize you, hinder or stunt your spiritual growth. Also, fear has caused men, a lot of men, when there was something God asked them to do, or not only maybe the Lord asked them to do, maybe their pastor, your pastor, may have said, I would like for you to do something. They may ask you, and because of fear, there's a lot of things, and this is some of the things I hear. I can't do this, or this or that. That's just impossible. Or what about even Moses? God said, go tell Pharaoh. And he said, I can't do that because I'm slow of speech. He was afraid of his ability to be able to stand in the gap, be God's man for that time, and lead God's people out of bondage. And that fear caused him to say, I don't think I can do that. So these are some of the problems that fear can bring or result in, rather. So, of course, when Moses heard God continue to talk to him, and he sent his brother to help him, Aaron, to be his spokesperson, he went ahead and done what God told him to do, and thus became one of the greatest leaders ever. What a great man. Moses led them through all those wilderness trials to Canaan's land. So thank God for that. But I'm just going to give you a couple illustrations too. We look at fear and we see some great men as we look at them today, and we'll say, what mighty men of God that we're talking about. And they are. I'm going to tell you 4 different people here, and they were great men of God. First of all, we're going to look at Gideon. And God had came and spoke to Gideon, and he saluted him, he hailed him, and said to him, you're a mighty man of valor. He wanted him to go and stand up and fight against the enemies of God's people. But Gideon said, I just can't do that. I'm not a prophet. I'm the least of my house. I just don't think I can. So if you want to look yourself, I don't have time to go through it all this morning, but if you want to look at Judges chapter 6, verse 23, and start reading some of those verses there, you can see it. Gideon did not want to answer the call. And even when he rounded up 32,000 men, he still had fear. And when that army whittled down to 10,000 and then only 300, could you imagine how much that fear must have grown in his heart? But God had a plan, and the Lord had told Gideon to go. And Gideon finally listened to the Lord, obeyed the voice of the Lord, and he went, and a mighty and a great victory was won. But Gideon, at the start, was very afraid. Or if you want to look at Jeremiah, we call him now the weeping prophet. What a great prophet that Jeremiah was. And in Jeremiah 1 and verse 8, when the Lord called Jeremiah to the office of being a prophet, Jeremiah absolutely did not want to do that. And even later, he said, I'm not going to speak anymore in the Lord, or for the Lord, or about the Lord. And he made up his mind he wouldn't. But one day he said, I could not do that because it was like a fire shut up in my bones. So Jeremiah had great fear, but he overcame the fear. And in 1 Kings chapter 19, when we look at a great man by the name of Elijah, Elijah was a great and a powerful man. Elijah had just met with all those prophets of the groves and Baal, stood against them and challenged them to a duel to who's going to call fire down out of heaven. And Elijah prayed, and God sent fire down out of heaven. But right after that, Jezebel sent out her threats that she was going to take the life of Elijah. Now, I said he was a great man called fire out of heaven, but now his life is threatened, and what does he do? Well, he done exactly what our title was on today. He forgot everything and ran. He forgot about calling down fire out of heaven. He forgot about all that great things God done for him. And he heard those words, your life is going to be taken from you. And he left it all and he ran. So, or what about Adam? Let's look at Adam for just a moment here. Adam, after eating the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden, where he was placed and could have had anything he wanted but that, he said a word that was not even in his vocabulary. This word should have never even came from the mouth of our first man created in the Bible, Adam. And it was this. I mean, this wasn't even in his vocabulary. But for the first time ever, the word appeared in the Bible, the first time it was spoken, in Genesis 3:10. When God came, the voice of the Lord came walking in the cool of the day, saying, Adam, where art thou? Here was the words of Adam. I heard thy voice and was afraid. Now, the reason he was afraid, he knew he had sinned and failed God. So there are different things that brings that fear. But Adam had such fear that he done exactly what I told you. He forgot everything and ran. Adam had anything he wanted. Everything was at his fingertips. He walked with God and talked with God. But when he seen what he'd done, he forgot all of that. And he ran and he hid. Because Adam said, I heard thy voice, and I was afraid, and I hid myself. So he forgot everything and ran. Lastly, I have one I want to talk to you about in Matthew 14:25. I'm going to talk to you about Peter, Simon Peter, and in Matthew 14:25, the Bible said, in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them walking on the seas, or to his disciples, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled. And notice this. They were troubled, and here's what they said. It is a spirit. Fear made them think it was some kind of demonic thing or a ghost or something of that nature, because they said, oh my, it's a spirit. But then the Bible said they cried out for fear. Verse 26. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, be of good cheer, be not afraid. Now I want you to notice here, be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. So they saw him and said, they were afraid because they thought it was a spirit. Jesus spoke and said, be not afraid, it is I, be not afraid. So then in verse 28, Peter answered him, saying, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come on the water. So Peter was afraid also, and he said, Lord, if that's you talking. Now, why would he ask that question? It was fear, because Jesus had already said, be not afraid, it is I. So somewhere there in Peter's mind, he was between the it is I from the words of Jesus. And I think it's a spirit by the words of all the other disciples. And he said, bid me come on the water. And then Jesus, the Bible said, answered him and said unto him, to come to him, bid me come, and he said that he came unto him. Verse 29, and he said, when Peter was come down out of the ship, that he walked on the water. So I want you to notice, here's something else fear does. Fear makes you lose your focus. Peter lost his focus when Peter was on that ship and there was a great storm and everybody saw this image coming and they all said, it is a spirit. Peter lost focus. And when the Lord said, be not afraid, it is I, he still lost his focus. So that's what fear does to us. It will make us lose our focus. So we must be careful and not allow fear to make us lose our focus. So the Bible said he came out of the ship and he walked on the water to go to Jesus. So Peter walked on the water. Here's something else. I told you fear makes you lose your focus. The very next verse. Now, Peter was walking on the water. We all read that. You know that's true. But then the Bible said, when he saw the wind. So he loses focus. I mean, I could see it the first time. But on the second time, after he was walking on the water, he lost his focus again when he looked at the wind. He looked at that and fear came again. He said the Bible said the winds was boisterous and he was afraid and beginning to sink. I'm going to stop there. He was afraid and was beginning to sink. So, first of all, fear made him believe more in a spirit than what he saw in Christ. He had to second guess Jesus saying, it is I, by saying, if it's really you. And fear made him lose his focus even further when he saw the wind boisterous and he began to sink because he looked at the wind blowing and the waves raging instead of keeping his eyes on Jesus. He began to sink. Then he cried and said, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? So, I just want you to see what I'm talking to you about today. In all these cases, if you could see here Peter or Adam or Elijah or Jeremiah or Gideon or all the others that I've mentioned to you here, fear caused them doubt, worry, trouble, all sorts of things. It brought a lot. And by the way, fear does bring absolute anxiety and depression, and it will hinder your spiritual growth. Fear will do that. So, if you can look back at these and then remember my title to this was fear. Do I forget everything and run? Or do I face my fear? Do I face everything and rise? So I'll be back with you again next Monday with the second part of this podcast when we'll be talking to you about the word fear, and we're going to face everything and we're going to rise. So don't fear and run this morning. Throughout your week this week, when fear comes, don't run, stand up and rise. God bless you. This is Pastor David Miller, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.